Hi, everyone. Today we're going to talk about primal leadership. We're going to talk about the emotional intelligence of great leaders. The big idea of this chapter is that leadership is not just about being smart or strategic, it's about emotions. According to the chapter, great leadership works through emotions, meaning how leaders make people feel will directly impact how well they perform. Emotion drives success. Great leaders move us emotionally, igniting passion and inspiring the best. Their success depends on their ability to drive emotions in the right direction, a fundamental and primal task. For example, think about a job where your manager actually motivated you. You probably worked harder without being forced. Compare that to a job where the manager was negative or didn't care. You likely just did the bare minimum. That difference isn't skill, it's emotional impact. Let's look at the BBC example. This is one of the most important stories in the chapter. There are two leaders that delivered the same bad news, closing a division. The first leader was cold and disconnected, and people got angry. The second leader spoke with empathy and meaning, and people actually felt inspired. It's the same message, but there's a completely different emotional outcome. Think about this in real life. For example, if a professor cancels an assignment but seems careless, students might get frustrated. If they explain it thoughtfully, students are standing. That's the difference between dissonance, negative emotion, and resonance, positive emotion. The power of emotional intelligence. Leadership success hinges on emotional impact, not just strategy or ideas. A leader's mood significantly affects organizational atmosphere and performance. Emotional intelligence provides measurable ways to understand and improve emotional handling. It fosters better business results, talent, retention, morale, and motivation. So, leadership success depends on emotional impact, not just strategy. Emotional intelligence allows leaders to understand emotions, manage them, and improve relationships. For example, a manager who notices their team is overwhelmed and adjusts expectations is using emotional intelligence. Without it, leaders unintentionally create stress, even if they mean well. The primal dimension of leadership. This slide introduces the idea of the primal dimension. Primal means this is the most basic and most important part of leadership. Leaders have always been emotional guides. People look to them for direction during uncertainty. For example, during a stressful shift, employees look to the manager. During a group project, people look to whoever takes control. That person sets the emotional tone for everyone else. The open loop are interconnected emotions. The limbic system is open loop, meaning our emotional centers depend on external connections. We rely on others for our emotional stability. Their signals can alter our physiology. One person's emotions can affect another's hormone levels, cardiovascular function, and even sleep rhythms. One emotional brain depends on other people. We don't regulate emotions alone. So, again, this means other people can actually affect our mood, our stress levels, or even our physical responses. So, an example of this, if you walk into a room where everyone is stressed, you start to feel stressed too. This is why leaders matter so much. Their emotional state literally impacts others. So, that brings us to emotional contagion in groups. Emotions spread irresistibly between individuals, even through nonverbal cues. Physiological mirroring occurs, synchronizing bodily rhythms during interactions. In groups, the most emotionally expressive person often transmits their moods to others. Cohesive groups demonstrate stronger sharing of moods, affecting collective sentiment. So, for example, one negative coworker, the whole team will feel it and become negative. Or if you have a positive leader, this lifts the group. This slide mentions mirroring, which means people unconsciously match each other's emotions. So, in any group, emotions become shared. So, if we are sharing emotions, let's look at leaders as emotional magnets. Leaders exert the strongest influence on a group's emotional climate. Everyone watches the boss for cues. Positive emotions like cheerfulness and laughter are highly contagious, boosting cooperation and overall performance. People naturally watch the leader and they take cues from them. So, for example, if a manager is upbeat and encouraging, the team will feel motivated. But if they are negative and stressed, teams become disengaged. This is why leadership presence and modeling matters so much. And that brings us to moods are driving business outcomes. There's a tangible impact of emotional climate on performance. Positive moods will lead to better performance. Negative moods lead to worse performance. And the balance between them are the best results. So, for example, if employees feel good, they'll collaborate, they'll think creatively, and perform better. If they feel stressed, they make mistakes and disengaged. This shows emotions are not soft, they directly impact results. Positive moods boost cooperation, fairness, creativity, and overall business performance. So, for example, a team that enjoys working together will communicate better and produce stronger work. This is why companies invest so much in culture. It affects outcomes. Negative moods. Prolonged distress sabotages relationships and hampers work efficiency. So it can damage relationships, communication, and even performance. So, for example, if someone is constantly stressed at work, they stop collaborating and focus on just getting through the day. Optimal balance. Mild anxiety can focus attention, while extreme negative emotions disrupt work. A little stress or anxiety can help focus attention. So, for example, a deadline might increase focus, but too much stress can cause burnout. So, leaders need to create a balance, not eliminate pressure completely. So, this slide reinforces that moods drive outcomes. The key idea is that emotional climate in a group determines how well people work together and perform. Leaders play a huge role in shaping that climate. So, let's look at the cost of emotional hijacking. Negative emotions like chronic anger or anxiety disrupt work by hijacking attention. Group performance measurably drops with negative feelings and improves with positive ones. Interactions with management are frequently cited as a primary cause of employee bad moods. Distress erodes mental abilities and impairs emotional intelligence, reducing empathy. So, an example of this is you're getting yelled at. You're likely to stop listening. If you're feeling attacked, you're going to react defensively. This slide also points out that interactions with managers are one of the biggest causes of negative moods. That's huge. Leaders often create the problem without even realizing it. So let's look at some benefits of a positive work climate. Good moods lubricate mental efficiency, flexibility in thinking, and decision making. Upbeat moods enhance creativity and foster an optimistic outlook on goals. Humor and laughter stimulate trust, connection, and open communication. Optimistic leaders attract and retain talent, fostering a pleasant and productive environment. So the benefits include better thinking, better decision making, stronger relationships, and higher retention. For example, people will stay at jobs where they feel valued, even if the pay isn't the highest. Quantifying the feel of a company. Emotional climate directly drives financial results. This slide shows that emotional climate actually impacts the financial results. So, how people feel at work translates into real business outcomes. There's 1% improvement. In service climate, it can lead to a 2% increase in revenue. If there's high turnover among frontline staff, it predicts declining customer satisfaction and revenues for years. Now, let's look at this 50 to 70% of employee perception of organizational climate is traceable to the leader's actions. And 20 to 30% of business performance can be accounted for by emotional climate. So leadership doesn't just affect feelings, it affects profit. This final comparison brings it all together. Dissonant leadership are leaders who are out of touch with group feelings. They create distress, misdirection, and ultimately poor performance. They undermine emotional foundations. Resonant leadership are leaders who emphasize and inspire, and they bring out the best in people, fostering optimism, commitment, and high-performing environments. So dissonant leaders will create stress, confusion, and poor performance, whereas resonant leaders will create trust, motivation, and high performance. Think about your own experiences. You've likely had both types. One makes you want to leave, the other makes you want to do your best. So in summary, the main takeaway is this. Leadership is emotional at its core. Leaders don't just manage work, they manage how people feel. And that emotional climate determines performance, relationship, and success.